Alright, time for another DraftPhysics.com, debatephysics.com, but yes, you can't find any reasonable debate in any reasonable forum or in any reasonable context. It's just mudslinging bullshit pretty much everywhere, and if anything at all, there's no obligation to deal with arguments. You just there's no point in anybody making any, because they won't be countered or even acknowledged as existing in often cases. So here's an example. Sabine Hossenfelder is pretending that Wolfram, just started doing a theory of everything when he's been doing it for years. And it is all over the place. It's really easy to find. You can't really miss it, actually, the conversation. All the usual places. It has already taken place. And so she's really late to this game. And pretending that, somehow she's got the relevant thing to say. When, yes, I think all the things that need to be said have already been said about whatever Wolfram's doing. And that is, he can't show you anything. So what's the point? I mean, he can say he likes it, but he can't show you anything that you could even say, hey, look, that's getting really close to looking like the universe, because he doesn't have anything that looks really close to the universe, looking like the universe. Where I, on the other hand, do have the simulation. I probably should show that. Yes, I probably should. Ah, there it is. So I'll put it back in action. I think I will anyway, hopefully. There we go. So it perfectly simulates charge, with just two kinds of force, two kinds of matter, and three kinds of interactions, just reflection, absorption, and a transition. And that's it. That's all you need. And it perfectly duplicates what you would expect electrons and protons to basically do in the formation of atomic nucleuses and so on. And physics doesn't have any clue why electrons and protons are attracted to each other or why they repel each other. They have nothing. And this simple thing, duplicates it just fine. And it really doesn't have any flaws that can be projected, in the sense that somebody could argue, well, the force, an external force, means there's drag in the universe. And the fact is, though, electrons and protons are dragged. They don't make it through space. You can't shoot them to another planet. You have to shoot big objects. And so there's obviously something about bigger nucleuses that creates some compensating effect that enables them to do what electrons and protons can't do. So anyway, you can just see it's creating a lot of dipoles, blah, 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 blah. And, doing what you would expect electrons and protons to do if thrown into some arena to do their thing. All right. So on to her video. I should go to the while I was at this. Maybe we'll look at the junk she sells first and then get to the physics, because it is kind of surprisingly tacky. I thought there'd be something a little more innovative or something, but it's all Einstein and then wooey colored woo pictures, and that's it. So whatever that wooey stuff is, and then there's something called chaos that doesn't look all that chaotic. Frankly, it looks pretty organized, and so I don't even understand that at all. And then she has some old stuff with her gobbledygook phrase on it. But the Einstein ones are funny, just because most of the Einstein has this little that guy again. So as if her little catchphrase, that guy again, has somehow going to become universal. Everybody's going to get what that means. So they just you could have a piece of this crap, in your house, and they'd somehow see all the wooey crap, swirly crud, and then really bad drawings of Einstein. So I'm sure Einstein would just love this one, where it looks like he's in drag. I suppose that's supposed to be him sticking his tongue out. I don't even know. It's just really, really, it's really tragic that, this is what they do to people they like or admire. And this is what they do to them. Shit. Yeah, why don't you just paint his picture on your ass? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just so bad. And then this nonsense. Science doesn't tell you not to pee on high voltage lines. It says urine is an excellent conductor. Urine is salt water. It's, it's an excellent conductor because it's just salt water. Okay, gee. So, and then she's also selling her videos for $1 a piece. So her music videos. Anyway, when I'm ragging on theories of everything, so that's the context here, is that she doesn't think physics needs to be understandable or simple or simplified, or that it should be getting to some elemental understanding of some simple process in which the universe generates the universe. And so she's not really an evolutionist in the sense that she really doesn't think the elemental universe is made out of simple stuff. No, it's made out of gluons. So some kind of frog particle. It's even more complicated than a frog's tongue, in the sense that it's a stiff thing and it goes out and it sticks to something else and then it contracts and pulls the thing in towards it, and that's the elemental function. Yeah, sure it is. So anyway, so context. I repeatedly have attempted contact with her, so at least 3 or 4 times. Originally, it was because she was selling tutoring, or at least conversation with a physicist. So you could pay $50 and get a half hour of a physicist's time. And I just was honest about it. And I said, yeah, I'll pay you whatever you want me to pay you, and but I want to record it. And they wouldn't let you record it. Because, you might challenge them and might make them look stupid. Oh, you might reveal that they are stupid. Oh, okay. And again, it's not about stupid, ignorant. It's about, the real trick to being intelligent isn't gaining a whole bunch of facts. It's avoiding the non-facts. It's avoiding the mistakes. So, all of it depends on, solid little building blocks to do good logic and reasoning and deduction. And any kind of, misinformation, like a fake fingerprint. Let's say somebody could make some fake fingerprints and they put them at the scene of a crime. That could be a real problem, right? Because a detective has got to take that seriously. It's a fingerprint, but every other piece of evidence points somewhere else. But he's stuck with that fingerprint, And so it's all about the misinformation, not so much the information. And that's the real flaw with these people, is they're all Borgish they're all Borgites. They've been taught their catechism, and they just can't get that song out of their head. Mary, Holy Mother of Christ. Blah, 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 blah. They got this whole little rhetoric in their head, and they just can't get it out. This spent space, this silly wave particle duality, and then they have the energy duality that they don't even acknowledge because they never have a conversation just saying, well, what's the difference between momentum and kinetic energy? Oh yeah, that squared term. But where does that actually take place? I mean, how can you have both momentum and kinetic energy? How can objects have both of those things? I mean, it makes zero sense. It's nonsense. Obviously, only one of those formulas can be accurately describing motion in the universe, and they're too stupid to see that obvious fact. That's broken. That's not fixing. Kinetic energy the kinetic energy theory didn't fix physics. It basically challenged it, and said, well, here's a different theory. But it's a different theory. It's not compatible with the old theory, and they can't even figure that out. But you can't conserve both. Anytime you transfer energy from anything that has a different mass and therefore a different velocity, that squared term is going to make an absolute mess. They can't figure it out. They can't see that it doesn't make any sense. It's just so bad. And so anyway, she's a real Einstein whore, apparently, obviously. At least she likes to play with Einstein's image as if that's physics, and they're all can sit in the glow of Einstein. So if they put little Einsteins around, they can all see if it rubs off, and they can have the imperialism of an Einstein, the royalty. If you put a bunch of pictures of kings behind you, I guess that'll do it too. But anyway, just really bad. And, because the theory is, it's so undemonstrated by any overtly visual experiment, anything you could actually see and grok and say, yeah, I get it. Okay. All this nonsense of the framing of, things being in different places in space, the space contracting and expanding, all kinds of nonsense. That it's just not reasonable to sit there and accept all of these wooey, extraordinary events taking place in our universe. It's a mechanical system, a very simply based mechanical system, and all it is energy transfers, frankly. The only thing that makes the universe interesting is the force can't do anything without the conduit of the matter. The force can't interact with the force, so it has to use matter to exchange pressure in the universe, the force, and that's all. And we watch the matter move, and does interesting things, and creates animals, and does all kinds of crap. But the basic mechanism is just electrons and protons interacting with force, a real elemental moving energy in the universe. And their competing theory is bent space, which is this nonsense that somehow a nothing is bent and it gives things actual real energy. That is, it makes them move, and somehow they don't have to account for that movement. So I mean this is a glaring flaw I should have saw 30 years ago. First hearing of bent space or whatever, or paying any attention to it as a reality. I never even imagined that the people actually believed in this kind of crap. I thought that whole bent space-time was just some little thing Star Trekkers do or something. I didn't think it was something people actually believed. But anyway, it always was a push universe from my perspective. There had to be a force. Something was pushing us into the earth. We weren't being pulled by anything. So anyway, so there's this gaping, huge, gigantic reasoning flaw in the sense of they have this idea of conservation of energy, and yet here they have a mechanism like gravity that is exactly, frankly, it's creating huge amounts of energy in the universe. It's not only the meteors banging into stuff, but all of the, heat created by suns and all the energy radiating out of all the other material objects that actually have a temperature, all of them. They're not cold, they're actually hot. Now, they're cold from your perspective because it takes a lot of energy to heat a planet, let's say, to 32 degrees, right? Freezing. Freezing is a lot of, just to get to 32 degrees is a lot of energy. That's really warm. It's not anywhere near cold. But it's cold for us because we need a lot of heat to function. We need a lot of force and energy. We need stuff moving a lot to create all our animation. And so we need a hot universe. But frankly, it's a huge amount of energy just to be really cold. So minus 100 degrees Kelvin. Celsius is still a positive degrees Kelvin. It's still 100 degrees positive Kelvin. So it's a lot of energy. And everything's got it. And they all got it from bent space. It all got it from gravity. And how do you explain, how it radiates out into the universe as real heat, as real energy that we know, photons and other electromagnetic radiation, and yet how does it get back into bent space? How do you conserve it? If gravity is producing the heat of the sun and producing the heat of the earth and melting the heat, the center of the earth constantly, keeping it molten, how do you put it back into whatever a bent space is? Obviously what's causing gravity is heat. The radiation that everything is radiating, reflecting, if not absorbing and then reflecting, the thermal energy is the gravity. I don't even think I think it's what you call a no-brainer. So I haven't heard anything close to any counter argument to my suggestion that that's exactly how it works. Gravity's just heat, and it's just radiation. It's radiant energy. Okay, and radiant energy is as close as you get to heat. As soon as it hits anything material, it starts jiggling the atoms, and same thing. It converts into heat so readily, okay, that there can't be much of an argument. And clearly, so bent space is a broken theory right from the beginning, because it doesn't even obey any notion of a conservation law, because there's absolutely no way to convert heat into bent space. There's no reasoning or logic explaining how heat creates a bent nothing. You can't really create a nothing out of something, right? So we know the radiant energy is a something carrying momentum. How do you convert that into a nothing? Yeah, not likely. So anyway, this video, okay, so that's enough. I mean, I could go on and on. Okay, I mean, she seemed like an interesting character in the sense that when she first started her videos, so she was a little bit dissident, hungry for a better answer kind of a person almost seemed. And, now she just chooses targets, and she's just a hypocrite, okay? The science she doesn't like, doesn't appeal to her personally, she'll trash, but she clings to stuff that is just as weak and pitiful and poor, like a gluon. I mean, again, I'd love to just see a physicist explain to me how, if I needed a force to push two protons together, why wouldn't I just stick an electron between them? Just explain to me how that doesn't solve the problem. Why would I need a strong force to get the two protons close together when all I need to do is stick an electron in the air, okay, and the protons will stick right to it? Not a problem. And I can just illustrate that with magnets. I put a north magnet here, and I have two south pole magnets over here, and I want to get the two south poles to stick, really to get close to each other. I mean, it's just obvious that'll work. It's obvious that's what charges are doing. It's obvious that I don't need the strong force. It's not an elemental function. It's not an elemental thing, because it's already built into the function of charge. And this is in the context where they've already conceded neutrons decay into an electron and a proton in a silly anti-neutrino. So let's just forget the anti-neutrino. I mean, right there you already know that there's electrons in the nucleus of atoms. They're there in exactly the right proportion. That is, half the electrons of the atom are in the nucleus, the other half are orbiting. And that's the conservation. That's the equality, or close to an equality, that you'll get in most atoms, where the number of electrons on the circling the nucleus is proportional to the number of neutrons. So anyway, I mean, it adds up. Generally speaking, like I said, all the very heavy elements don't have the same kind of balance, and that's why they decay, frankly. It's because they're not very balanced. But anyway, so what else is to say? So I have offered her, I did offer her, it might have been even, I think I made two, I tried twice. I think the first time offered her 2,000, and I think the second time was 3 or 4, and no response. And obviously these commercials she does, from Brilliant, she probably only gets $3,000 per shot or something, especially when I offered her the money, was when she was getting 1/4 of the views she gets now. So the more popular they become, the more unreachable and they become, and it's just all, it's such a closed, myopic pile of crap. This little club that decides what the truth they're going to sell is, and they really don't accept any kind of critique regarding what they propagandize for. All right, so over the last, say, 3 years, I've watched at least 6, 7 interviews with Wolfram regarding his theory of everything. And frankly, in none of those conversations can you glean any glimmer of what the fuck he's talking about, besides the obvious, that somehow there's these elemental rules you can create. You can create things, and then you can have rules for the things to behave. 2 + 2 + 2 physics. And yes, you can design a simple machine with these simple rules, simple parts, okay, and simple rules about how the parts interact. And obviously, that's what that's what Einstein spent the last 30 years of his life devoted to, was the idea that, yeah, there's probably some simple mechanism that underlies the whole thing and that will unify everything and explain how this universe works. What's the elemental functions? And so regular physics was inventing all kinds of new particles all over the place, and then all these, insane features of entanglement and spooky actions all over the place. And obviously Einstein didn't have any interest in that and was trying to find something more elemental. All right. And the fact that Wolfram, says, well, yes, you can do this with math, or you can do this with a computer program. Well, of course you can. But the fact is he's not doing it. Okay, so he's putting a bunch of wacky rules in. He's creating the extra dimensions, and he's distorting the space, and he's making gluons, and he's making nonsense. He's trying to make this simple model explain frogs and turtles as elemental functions, and they're not. You can't have a complex machine as one of the elemental players. You can't have a homunculus, a little human, navigating spaceships, and then somehow that's what our universe is made out of, is little humans navigating spaceships. No, it's something really crude, really simple, really basic, and that's what everybody should be looking for. And frankly, that's what a theory of everything is going to basically be. It's a statement about it. It's not going to be a theory of everything that includes a bunch of wooey magical crap, and you have to go through 400 different particles and explain all the wacky things they can do. That's not going to be a theory of everything. That's going to be a theory that will waste, millions of neurons, well, billions of neurons for millions of years. Anyway. So there's no way you could miss Wolfram. And she says, okay, physicists aren't paying any attention. But, the argument would be, what can they pay attention to? The fact that he produces no product, like he's keeping it all in-house somehow, so he's not going to show you anything. It means you can't comment on it because it's just some vague notion that, well, if I can make things, I can do some calculations that make a funky line that swirls around, and hyperboloid. Yeah, that's how I can do that. So what? How does that explain why electrons repel each other and why electrons attract to protons? Does it explain any of that? No. Does it show it? No. Does it simulate it? No. All right. So this pretense that it's bullshit. He has been paid attention to. There's just nothing to argue. What can you argue about the theory? Because it doesn't have anything. There's no theory. There's no, there's nothing to look at. Anyway, so.
You've been asking me for several years to talk about Stephen Wolfram's theory of everything.
And I ignored you because, well, I thought it was bullshit. But now I'm going to say it's something other than bullshit for no good reason. But it's still bullshit. So this is, if I was Wolfram, I guess I wouldn't feel very complimented by her wishy-washy, mushy, like, oh yeah, I got forced to accept that maybe there's some tiny bit of shred of credibility because some guy talked to me for a week. Okay, and convinced me that one of the silly problems I thought was a problem wasn't a problem. Even though the biggest problem is it doesn't do anything that's recognizable as a theory of how the universe works. It doesn't show us gravity, it doesn't show us charge, it doesn't show us magnetism, it doesn't show us a damn thing.
I haven't done that because I don't understand what he's doing.
So that's what she says, right? But later she's going to say, somehow endorse it is why I don't understand it and I'm a physicist. But you should go watch it and you should go pay attention to it. The other physicists for sure should spend lots of time analyzing it because, I'm not a good enough physicist. Is that what she's saying? What's her comment here? She's obviously not interested, and yet she's going to sell it. She is selling it in this video. The video is basically an endorsement, although it's so left-handed, it is so backhanded. There's dog do all over, the handshake. It's not friendly at all.
But recently I've realized that I don't know what I'm doing either.
Well, yeah, so what does that even mean? I don't know what I'm doing either. What is what? I mean, it's just what you are doing is defending archaic crap, okay? And it's archaic in the sense that it's crappy. It's not even so much that it's that old. It's that it was mush to start with. I mean, Einstein's papers were little tiny, 4-paragraph pieces of crap about some notion that, okay, I can describe the inverse square law with, absolute wooey nonsense about some bent geodesic that's really has to be a bent ether. And if you would have called it bent ether, then everybody would have just rolled their eyes and gone, oh, please, not that again. But if he would have called it what it was, bent ether, okay, then it would have been dismissed and we wouldn't be talking about it now.
Indeed, when I look at my news feed, I don't think that anyone knows what they're doing.
So, yeah, so that should be the conversation, is that you have this convoluted, messy, ugly, completely, the only beauty is what you see. I mean, only you see beauty in this fucking nonsense. All right, some sort of mathematical crapola. Math, it'd take you 15 years to even do your stupid, nobody does the math. Einstein's formula is meaningless because it's not even a formula. It's a formula about formulas. It's about how to balance formulas. It's not about balancing any real numbers. It's just pathetic.
And so I've decided to just tell you what I think he's doing.
So whatever that even means. You just said you don't know what he's doing, but now you think he's doing something. Oh, okay. Pathetic.
Wolfram is a computer scientist and mathematician.
Yes, and then, so that you can find out, and then you just listen to him for 5 minutes, and you get the basic idea, okay, that you take simple objects and then simple rules, and you can create a system, and then you just watch the system evolve, and you can see it do things that might look like what the universe is doing. But he hasn't shown us anything that looks like what the universe is doing. Again, he hasn't shown us magnetism, hasn't shown us induction, hasn't shown us any aspect of elemental physics. He hasn't shown us anything.
Probably best known for the math software Mathematica, but he also has the ambition to explain, well, everything, and he wants to do it with computer code.
So it's not about his ambition, it's about what he has as an insight into it. So he says he has an insight, a way of manipulating that works. And again, this is all you're going to get, is some kind of mush saying, well, this is what the universe is doing. It's not going to be a bouncing ball. It's not going to be a ball bearing bouncing on an anvil. Okay, it's not going to be a 5-ton train hitting a 10-ton train going, a 5-ton train going 10 velocity versus the 10-ton going 5, and some demonstration about how the 5-ton train has twice the energy. It's not going to show us that. So that's another context for Wolfram. He's a big Leibniz fan. Okay, so he has I read the whole thing, this whole big pile of crap about Leibniz that he wrote, and it doesn't mention vis visa, the controversy. It doesn't really mention any of that. That whole concept is just not part of the historical record that he's writing. And he certainly didn't go into monads and solitons in any detail. But yeah.
His theory of everything is basically an attempt to put the simulation hypothesis on solid mathematical basis.
So again, the simulation model is a completely different thing. So I know that's even unfair. He's not arguing the universe is a simulation, okay, that it's a programmed simulation. A simulation is an elemental, okay? If somebody's making an argument about simulation theory, that's like saying virtual reality. Virtual reality isn't made out of a bunch of simple elements. No, virtual reality is made out of a whole complex narrative and a bunch of, formulaic, Alice in Wonderland, Little Red, they're stories. It's a storytelling machine. And that doesn't have anything to do with an elemental deriving complexity out of something simple. So the fact that computers can model evolution is a lot different than modeling a soap opera. Okay, modeling something that has features where you're just flipping coins, and calculating how many heads and tails, that's not going to create a simulation that makes human beings. You have to know what you have to simulate the process of, you have to have that elemental piece right. You have to have the foundation stuff before you can even think of simulating from a simulation theory, as if we were in a simulation. If we were in a simulation, it wouldn't be some rudimentary software that was producing the simulation. It would be very complex. It would take very complex hardware and software to make us in a simulation, is the argument. You need something as complex as the whole fucking universe. The whole universe made us. I mean, technically, I don't know, yes, we're made out of star dust, so, you need those elements to be injected before you can even start to play the game.
Looking for code that'll produce fundamental physics as we know and like it.
Right, so fundamental physics, not human, blah, blah, blah. So the fundamental physics is, moons and, planets and suns, and they're not doing anything complicated.
With gravity and the particles in the standard model.
Right, so the gravity part and electrons and protons are really the only thing you have to figure out, right? Because the particles in the standard model, who would accept all that crap as the truth? I mean, why do people accept it? So even when they talk about the decay of a neutron, they'll talk about the fact that there's a certain number of quarks that make up the frickin' proton. And you're like, but you can't do that for the electron. So, I mean, I'm just saying, you can't make the electron go away and just call it some kind of quirk.
Wolfram is a curious case because he's not your average crank.
Okay, so look, they're all cranks. So Einstein was a crank. So even though she, obviously is obsessed with Einstein, Einstein was a crank. It was silly for him to spend, 30 or 40 years of his physics life pursuing a simpler, better theory. Yeah, that was just crankiness. It's the hypocrisy.
He understands the mathematics he's using just fine, and yet physicists have paid basically no attention to his ideas.
Right, because they don't have it. There's no idea in it yet. What is it? Again, do I have to, I could go back to, how come it's gone? That is curious. Yeah, I don't know. It's there. Oh, I know what I have to do. Right, I have to actually have the browser window open. I thought it was here, right here, right? You can see that now, right? He's got to show you something. This is what he has to show. So here, this is charge, made out of really simple rules. I mean, dirt simple. It's all written in HTML, JavaScript. I mean, it's not, the complicated part is making the things move, not doing the simple rules of absorption and reflection. So it's just couldn't be more crude in terms of the rules. I mean, the thing hits, it makes one calculation. What color are you? I just hit you. I'm red. Are you? If you're red, well, then I'm going to give you energy if you're moving in the same direction of me or not moving. And if you're moving towards me, then I'm going to reflect. And then, if I'm green and you're red, well, then I'm going to go right through you and just change color. That's it. Those are no complicated rules at all. And so the idea is quite brilliant. Now, I suggested this, I posted it on the forum that Wolfram has, right? So they have a public forum, but apparently the public is not invited to say anything. And they deleted my post in less than 24 hours. So, I mean, somehow it offended them for me to even suggest, and all I did was suggest that, well, here's a really simple model, okay, that produces a really, lots of complex outputs in terms of it basically creates the structures that would happen if electrons and protons are thrown together. And so every time it'll come up with some different random configuration of electrons and protons. So it's exactly what he argues. The basic theme he argues from is that you can take simple devices, simple things, and simple rules and make complexity. And I have a perfect illustration of it, and it's actually relevant to physics because it's actually demonstrating a physical phenomenon we know exists in physics, which is charge. And I can't get anyone, okay, to in any way point out how this is garbage. That this is, what does she call it? She just used that term, crank. This is just crank. Okay. Shit. I really hate this planet. If I haven't told you, yes, I kind of believe humans can't get it any worse than they deserve, because they really have embarrassed intelligence and neurons. They've done such an indignity to our function and so degraded us as machines by performing so dishonestly. It's not the stupidity, it's the dishonesty that sucks, the hypocrisy, the duplicity. Oof. Anyway.
I'm not sure why that is, but I have a guess. His basic idea is that the universe...
So why that is. I mean, so again, of course, it would make sense for anybody, I think, who's rational to sit there and think, just like it makes sense to think about abiogenesis in biology and how you get these what the elemental conditions were that created the outcomes. And that's all you're doing, and you're just saying, yes, it's like evolution. It's plateaus. First you have to have a nucleic cell. First you have to have a nucleic atom, and then you have a nucleic cell, and and then you have sexual reproduction. You have all these little steps to getting to, the higher form of functionality. Higher is probably the wrong word. More complex. And it makes perfect sense that it evolves out of something simpler. It's not battleships all the way down. It's rocks and sticks. It's a push-averse. Fuck's sake.
Thus operates like a computer program. It has very simple rules from which the laws of physics...
So we know computer programs don't necessarily have simple rules and all of that crap. So that's just bullshit. I mean, algorithms, very complex. So it's not about computer programming. Isn't about it's not the same subject. So the fact that they do it with a computer doesn't mean anything. You could do it with beans. This is like the argument of you can you can do some calculating about the volume and the size of a bean and do all that kind of stuff, or you could just count the beans.
Emerge, and from those laws everything else that we see follows. It's a more difficult version of cellular automata, which you see here. That's code.
So again, this is just the same. It's just simple rules. You're just saying, here's a thing, it can do these three things, and under this condition it does this, and that's it. And so it makes patterns. That's not, that shouldn't be surprising. And it certainly should be what you're saying. Yes, this is what the elemental universe has to be made out of, is something simple. Triangles. It's made out of simple geometry.
Which produces two-dimensional patterns line by line. These patterns can become quite complex. So maybe if you did it in 4 dimensions.
Okay, so it's the whole dimensional crap, right? There's 3 physical dimensions. They have real strict rules of right angles to each other. Why are we using this word dimension to describe something else? Okay, there's just no point. It's it's just abhorrent to reasoning to sit there and use a word for something that has strict rules and then say, well, no, we're going to violate the rules and create a 4th and 5th and 6th dimension that don't obey the critical fundamental rule that the other 3 are obeying. I mean, it's just it's bad logic.
You could explain the entire universe. That's the idea. I met Wolfram once at a workshop about 10 years ago.
So she could at any time arrange a conversation with Wolfram, I'm sure, right? I mean, especially now. But I'm sure she could have done it even 10 years ago. So I mean, this is just such bullshit. If she was interested, she could interview him, and I'm sure he would talk to her, okay, about what he's trying to do. and answer any questions she has. She just wasn't interested. Period. She's not interested. She's only doing this video because it sells. Okay, she can put his name in it, and she can make it almost look like there's a little bit of drama and there's a little bit of something, and it's all just fake, pretense. I noticed I'm not recording. What the hell happened? Oh, what did we miss? Well, we probably didn't miss anything. She just said something about him publishing a paper. I'll play that part again. And then she says he didn't publish a paper.
COVID lockdowns, and I had other things to do, such as trying not to go insane.
So I went on a whole spiel about how I don't get any of that crap with the COVID thing. And obviously, if you had less ability to go out and be distracted doing stuff, you would have more time, free time, to make a Wolfram video. How did COVID restrict the amount of free time you have? That's the funny part. Don't think it could possibly have done that.
It also didn't help that rather than just publishing a paper like normal.
Right, so she just talked about him publishing the paper, and then she says, why didn't he publish a paper? I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, I hope that part was in there. There's the paper. She talked about the paper, she read the paper, and now she's saying, well, why didn't he just publish a paper?
Just trying not to go insane. It also didn't help that rather than just publishing a paper like normal people, Wolfram had his PR team put out a press release in which he explains that he...
On his own website. Yeah, on his own website, he's promoting his own content. Just too silly.
He may have a path to the fundamental theory of physics, and it's beautiful. This is probably part of the reason why physicists mostly ignore Wolfram.
Amazing. So she thinks they even bother going to the website? I mean, there's nothing on the website that explains anything either. So it's just stated as, gee, I've had this idea and it really impresses the fuck out of me, and, yeah, I'm really happy with it. So yeah, that's it. That's all he's going to show you.
Doesn't follow standard procedure. I'm not saying that this is good. I'm just trying to explain what I think is good.
So he did standard procedure. There's just absolutely nothing out of standard procedure. Every scientist promotes their own shit, and they try to get other authorities to accept their shit. And so nothing new here.
Going on, a lot of eye rolling, basically.
Oh, amazing.
The new Wolfram approach uses what they call hypergraphs, instead of just using graphs to describe...
So again, this is supposed to be describing something. This. What is it describing? That would be the question that won't get answered.
Space-time and particles.
There's nothing on Earth doing this. Whatever that is, nothing's doing it.
In them, they collect...
Except his simulation is doing it.
These graphs into groups. So the hypergraph is really a collection of graphs. The points in these graphs describe space-time and...
So look at this crap. Look, I made a web of nonsense. Isn't the web of nonsense fascinating? It's just like a basketball, except lumpier and has holes in it.
Can also describe matter in the space-time depending on their properties. But the lengths in the hypergraphs are not physical. They have no length. They just quantify relations between the points. And since they
obviously have to have a length in the sense that everything has to have a distance from something else. So again, it's just that they don't bother calculating it. They just wait for the interaction to happen. They don't pre-calculate the interaction.
Have no length. There's no problem with them becoming shorter or longer for different observers. It's actually a clever idea.
I'd love to see you put it into actual action, show something, but there won't be anything. So this part was really funny. Okay.
I had an exchange with the guy who works for Wolfram Research, who did most of the work, I think.
So he did most of the work, I think. So this is the funny part, right? That now she's taking a shot at Wolfram, that he's got a bunch of other people that are doing all the work, and he's just taking all the credit. Yeah.
I think Jonathan in 2020, and I came to the conclusion that this is indeed possible. but it's been done before.
Oh, brother. You know. And done as a complete failure in the sense that obviously it was done before and they didn't make anything that looked like anything real. I mean, they can't make a moon out of it. They can't make something that looks like physics.
This is exactly the idea of an approach called causal sets put forward by Raphael Sorkin. As the name suggests, in this approach, space-time is a set of points.
Yeah, allergy. Anyway, so this whole idea, again, bent space is gravity. Okay, gravity is being caused by heat. It's real energy in the universe. It's a force. It's a pushing force. Nothing is pulled.
Like the points in the hypergraphs. And these...
So this is the problem. Is why would they try to simulate bent space when you can't make it into something physical? Because then you have to account for how the energy goes back into it. Because there's no physical mechanism for making heat disappear and turn into bent space. We don't see heat disappear and be turned into bent space.
Points have causal relations which you can depict with arrows, so that gives you a graph. And this will indeed respect the symmetries of Einstein's theory. If you look at the relation between Wolfram's hypergraphs and the causal set.
Having all the trouble hitting the right buttons. Anyway, so blah, 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 silly graphs, blah, blah, blah. And then she's going to say most of the work is done by this guy and, get another shot at Wolfram.
Worked more on the relation between Wolfram's hypergraphs and the causal sets. Most of this research has been done, it seems, by Jonathan Gorin. He's also looked at how to use that to do general relativity and how it prevents singularities.
So this is not them. They don't actually make a person out of their hypergraphs.
Which the causal sets people never figured out how to do. Is it a theory of everything? Well, not yet, certainly.
Yeah, right. It's nothing. It's nothing even close to anything coherently connected to any kind of notion of a stick or a stone. Anything elemental.
For one thing, I don't understand the stuff that Wolfram has written about quantum physics. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So that's kind of ambiguous, but what did he write about quantum physics? You ought to go back to Leibniz, okay? And you ought to, it would be just nice if physics would just revisit the subject and say, see, we believed all of this crap, this misinformation, that 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same energy as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. When something as simple as a lever says that can't be true, but we believe it. And that's the misinformation. Then it all gets broken. So they've been telling us for 350 years that it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast. No, it doesn't. There's no evidence it does. Yet they just keep believing it.
There are a lot of problems with doing quantum physics with a non-quantum algorithm that he doesn't address. And he hasn't provided specifics about how to...
There you go. He hasn't provided specifics about anything. Okay, not even, so why somebody would want to duplicate whatever this standard model is, which you can't model anything with it. This isn't what an atom looks like. So draw me a picture of an atom with all this crap in it. Show me where all this crap is doing something. Where are the positrons? Where have all the positrons been hiding? What are they doing right now? Where are they?
Reproduce the standard model or elementary particles.
Neutrinos. What are they doing right now?
However, the causal sets paper already show that it's possible to put discretized versions of differential equations on these graphs.
Oh, so math again. So she wrote a book called Lost in Math, and then she's just as wrong-roaded roads to nowhere, mathematical roads to nowhere.
So maybe it isn't as difficult as it sounds. So when I look at this today, I honestly think this research program is going very well.
Oh, hilarious. So it's been 10 years. He's done a lot of interviews. And where's the evidence that somebody could even paraphrase or describe how what he's doing is working? So she didn't show us anything that looks like it working. She didn't describe an element where it's working, and yet she's saying it's working. It's going along very well. It almost made a, well, it's made almost a round blobby thing with holes in it. Isn't that?
And I think it's about time that
enough?
physicists pay a little more attention.
Oh, so it's just so bad. He's getting paid plenty of attention. He's had plenty of opportunity to explain this shit. He has his own fucking goddamn YouTube channel where he could actually explain it, and he can't even explain it on his own channel. He can't even make a video explaining his own bullshit. You can't go to his channel and find the video where he explains any of this crap in any manner that is somehow coherent to charge, magnetism, electricity, gravity, or anything. It doesn't explain anything. Anything elemental.
To it, if you want to get started on your own theory of everything.
So she thinks theories of everything are a waste of time, and yet she just plays along and
or brush up your physics knowledge, I suggest you check out Brilliant.
So if you want to be part of the Borg, learn the Borgamathics, and you'll get a T-shirt. You get your own little badge. That you're one of them. Oh, God. This planet.
I like working with them because they
I like working with them because they pay me a big pile of money. Yay. And that's it. Yeah. It ain't about anything else but the money. All right. So that's enough of that shit. So there were kind of funny ironies. I was going to read comments, but I'm tired, so I'm not going to do that. But the first comment that came up was from some girl, a girl icon. So I clicked on it just out of curiosity. Girl is interested in physics, and she said something reasonable, in terms of a physics thing, like, well, why don't you contact Stephen and have a debate, or, and then you can discuss the theory, and that would be great to see. Please, 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 something like that. Reasonable statement. She's just got her YouTube channel links to a little porn site, where she's selling whatever, peekaboo pictures or whatever. And it's just so tacky. But anyway, it's just kind of funny, not that I don't know, selling sex is kind of, that's kind of slimy. Selling chat and all that kind of that's kind of unethical. So to me, there should be a distinction between people who can understand physics and understand the ethical ugliness of selling sex. But anyway, people do have to make a living on this planet. I mean, it is a difficult environment. Yeah, it's survival. It does require engineering. All right, anyway, so enough of a video. Till the next time and such. So this isn't exactly what I was, I wanted to, but I'll find some other, all of her videos are all about this abstract shit. And so she doesn't make any videos about anything elemental, except maybe the environment videos, where she actually makes a statement about how something actually physically works. But the rest of it is all this abstract shit. And so that's the unfortunate. But she doesn't make any double slits type videos and tell us about how it's waving. Shit. So anyway, but I'll find something. I just, it's time to just, point out that she's just selling crap, and she's just a hypocrite. She's just one of these talking Borg heads, and they're going to tell everybody else what the truth is, and it's not based on anything. It's really bad theory, and they really should admit that they're just making it up, and they're not doing a very good job.